Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special occasion, a tribute to a remarkable man, John Watson. My name is Paul Dallett.
My name is Karen Crone.
And we're absolutely honoured to be leading this special tribute to a remarkable man indeed. John couldn't have asked for anything better. A full house, starring role, and a QTC as well. Now, just one thing, if there are any QTC subscribers in the audience, this is not the matinee of Gloria, okay? Just in case some people ask for a refund
yes.
at the end. But we've gathered as family, as friends, as industry colleagues, and John's, his life was so wide, it really involved so many different people in so many different facets, not only in this country but everywhere else. And there are a lot of people who, unfortunately, are unable to make this this special tribute. At John's request, there was to be no funeral, nothing like that. So thanks to Michael Billinghurst and Robbie Nason and John O'Toole, who've worked very hard to put together this special tribute, along with many others. So thank you for attending, and yes.
Yes. I'm a little nervous and a little bit, well, what do you say? It's a big day for all of us, I know. I was lucky enough to meet John in 1979. I know. 36 years ago. And I'd never really met anyone like John before. I had travelled all the way down from a place called Rockhampton. And I was wearing little JC sandals and plaits. And I arrived at the Kelvin Grove College of Advanced Education to do an Associate Diploma in Performing Arts Theatre. And I was very lucky that my first lecturer was John Watson, and I'll never forget seeing him mince down the corridor of D Block, going, don't quite know why he's walking like that. I had a chat to Mum later and she tried to explain it to me. Anyway, we've been great mates all that time, and I'm going to, like you, miss him dearly.
So you all have a running order of what's happening today, and hopefully all our readers who couldn't make the dress rehearsal know where they are. But we will introduce some people. There is a little bit of audience participation, probably not as much as John would have liked, but he had done theatre restaurant, so he does like a bit of theatre restaurant and a bit of audience participation. So we will ask you to honour John's wishes and be part of that. But first of all, I'd like to introduce John's godson and almost his second, well, John was almost this person's second father. Would you please welcome Michael Billinghurst?
Thank you, Paul and Karen. Maud Adams, 19th century star of Broadway, once said, "You may shelve your Shakespearean plans for the present. I am going to play Peter Pan." And one young boy from Charters Towers certainly took her at her word. Johnny Watson was my godfather. But more than that, he essentially was my father during childhood. And even more than that, he was my friend. Whether we were flying down Hale Street in the white love truck in the days before speed cameras, weaving in and out of traffic and screaming "Wild Boys" at the top of our lungs, playing dress up on the front veranda at Kendigo Street, or letting off 6 a.m. smoke bombs in front of Lewis Norman's house. Johnny was the magic man. He was the bringer of joy and excitement, and he was Peter Pan. The news of his sudden passing has left me stricken by grief and loss and sadness such as I have never known. Which brings me to lessons I've learned in grief management from Peter Pan as taught to me by Johnny Watson. Dear Wendy, I like to think that one day after I die, at least one small particle of me, of all the particles that will spread everywhere, will float all the way to Neverland and be part of a flower or something like that poet said. I like to think that nothing's final, and that everyone gets to be together, even when it looks like they don't. That it all works out, even when all the evidence seems to say something else. and that you and I are always young in the woods, and that I'll see you sometime again, even if it's not with any kind of eyes I know of or understand. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way things go after all, that all things end happy, even for you and me. Yours, Peter. And finally, from Jane Barry himself, never say goodbye, because goodbye means going away, and going away means forgetting, and I'll never forget you. You know that place between sleep and awake? The place where you can still remember dreaming? That's where I'll always love you. That's where I'll be waiting. To die would be an awfully big adventure, and I'll always miss him.
Thank you, Michael. As you know, Johnny always loved a show tune, but due to copyright regulations, we weren't allowed to play the cast recording of Dream Girls this afternoon. So we thought we'd get our very own Dream Girl to perform a very special song in honour of John. She sang this song at Johnny's 60th birthday party, and it was such a hit, we thought it's more than appropriate that we do it today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to sing, is there a straight man in the house, the one and only Sheila Bradley.
I haven't played to such a full house for years. Are we on? Oh yes, we are. Well, as Paul told you, I was invited to John's birthday party, and he asked me to sing. I said, okay, do you want me to sing anything special? He said, yes. I'd like you to sing that little song that I heard you sing when I came to see The Cat, the Rat and Me. I said, which one? And he said, the one bemoaning the fate of some women in show business because they don't have a really good deal. I said, I don't know what you're talking about, John. He said, straight man. I said, oh, you want me to sing straight man? He said, yes. I said, all right, and I did, and he loved it. So I thought I'd do it now. I'm a bit long in the tooth to sing this song now, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I have to preface it with a little poem. I quite like men. They're rather sweet. I like to give them things to eat. And when they're not being filthy swine, they're nice with candlelight and wine. My sympathies are feminist, but still I'm glad that men exist. They have strong hands and charming necks, and some of them are good at sex. I kid you not. They irritate me now and then. Oh, memories. But on the whole, I quite like men. Could I have a bell note, please, darling? It's very obliging. Is there a straight man in the house? An ordinary louse? Some unartistic chump whose FJ needs a jump? A man with absolutely no finesse, who buys his underwear at best and less. Is there a straight man here perchance, wearing polyester pants? A man who's turning grey, but still wears a black toupee? A man who's let his six-pack turn to jelly, and who's big and butch and strong like Judy Canelli? Heterosexual men can be useful now and then in those cheap physical ways for those midweek matinees. At times I need a macho brute with prehistoric flair. At best I need the man who ties me down and does my hair. Is there a straight man passing by in a flashy clip-on tie? A straight man near or far who thinks Prada is a car? The question is as if there's any doubt. Is there a straight man? Not a great man. He doesn't have to be an up-to-date man. Is there a straight man in the... Give me some men who will scout hard and men
Now it's time to hear some reflections of John's family life from two of his nieces. Bones.
Sorry.
We'll wait. And the set's going to look great when it's finished, isn't it? Don't you reckon? So I'd now like to ask two of John's nieces and one of his nephews to come forward. Would you please welcome Rebecca, Nicole and David.
Thank you. How do you follow that? We promise there won't be any singing. So Nicole, David and I are grateful for the opportunity to represent John's family at this time of celebrating an amazing life. So, we've got lots of stories from all different people, so we put it all together. But there's lots of people.
Lots of ideas, lots of thoughts.
So the most told story of my childhood about Uncle Johnny was from my mother, Robin. At the tender age of 8, John had convinced her that she should let him blindfold her on the back of Granddad's flatbed Chevy to practice tricks for a show they were producing. I promise I will tell you before we get to the edge, Johnny assured her. It took 3 goes of Johnny walking Mum off the back of the truck and 6-year-old Robbie hitting the dirt out the back of Melville Street and Charters Towers before she decided enough was enough. So Robin remembers this as a pivotal event between her and John. From this moment, the two of them had regular sessions with this strap. With such things, such as not getting their jobs done, or little things like tearing Nana's lace wedding veil by choosing to use that as a Superman cape running around the backyard. So, as Mum says, it was them against the world, including at times our older sister Betty when she looked after them while Nana was at work. John managed to rope Betty in on the fun as well, getting her to make toffee for him, resulting in burns on him and a toffee ban on the house when Nana was not home. My brothers and I would always enjoy the tales of Johnny, Betty, Gary and Mum's mischievous childhood. Mum and Betty were almost powerless against John's powers of persuasion and cheeky demeanour, always the lovable rogue from a very young age.
G'day. This is a message from my brother Peter in Brighton. Johnny was the best uncle anyone could wish for. He was someone who would listen to you without judgment, incredibly generous with his time and treasure, and was so wise and thoughtful. He really was the wisest person I knew, and for that, for me, is why I will miss him. After not seeing him for a couple of years, I spent a few days with him in May, and we talked about many things which I value more than ever with his passing. He even managed to stir my interest in the history of Redcliffe, of all things. I don't think anyone else could do that. Sincerely, though, there was so much that John still had to offer. His passing is a real loss. Johnny, thank you for being my uncle. I love you.
Memories of John involve many things. We all have our favourite stories that we like to tell. In around 1984, Johnny decided to travel with Nana and Granddad across the Darwin to visit us. His arrival was just in time for my brother's birthday, so he staged a production of Star Wars. He cast himself as Darth Vader, my brother as Luke, and I was Princess Leia. We had flying patio furniture and explosions of sparks that ended with Darth Vader dying into the pool. Whenever John went, he left lasting memories for anyone who knew or met him. With so many nieces, nephews, great-nephews, second cousins and twice removed, scattered near and far, there are too many names, tales and memories to mention. Here's a collection of our favourite things. Skipping down the road in Charters Towers in 1982, shockingly singing, jingle bells, Batman smells. Robin flew away and Wonder Woman lost her bosoms, flying TAA. Yeah, I think my mum never forgave him. So, puppets, Peter Pan, princess dresses, teepees, and parties, magic tricks, exploding cakes, ballet lifts, Christmas concerts and riverside extravaganzas, primates, possum magic, Smiley, a sentimental bloke, Tarzan, showgirls, show tunes, discos, divas and dinner parties, wizards, witches and yellow brick roads, memories of times forgotten and spoken histories.
My brothers Nathan, Nathan, Stephen and Joel, we all have wonderful memories of John's visits to us in Townsville and for us to him here in Brisbane. Nathan and Stephen have enjoyed seeing John spend time with their children as well. Stephen told me about being at the park recently and watching how John loved playing with these children, Caitlin, Emily and Riley. Seeing how he was able to find fun in everything they did. It was great to see the enjoyment he got out of playing with all of the children. We all enjoyed seeing John roll out the same valley lift as recently as Christmas that he used to do with all of us many moons ago. Children were mesmerised by him, and in just a few short hours, it was enough for children to be captivated by his magical spell. John did not seem to view anything as a chore. I believe that was because of his attitude towards life. He seemed to always be able to see the joy in everything, as well as successfully and efficiently get the job done. He loved to organise events and people, adding his unique creative flair. He also had an amazing ability to pick up on people and how people were feeling, meet them where they were, helping them to step sideways, jump or duck. He was always willing to give time and advice, whether you wanted it or not, either over a cup of tea, a bottle of wine or a gin and tonic. His famous D&Ms always helped to gain perspective. He had a genuine love for people and a great desire to help people see how wonderful life really is. Many people will miss his open house, big heart and ready advice, even though sometimes outrageously controversial. I recently promised John that on the event of his funeral, I would share some of the advice that he's given to me over the years. Sadly, it's come around far too quickly, but Mum, please close your ears, and you too, Dad. So, as a sweet 17-year-old visiting Brisbane and my uncle for the first time alone, he decided I needed some dating advice. Rebecca, while on dinner dates, it's best to get the sex in early and work up an appetite, not the other way around. Mum and Dad, I didn't need that advice. I'm a good girl. So thanks, John. I'll truly miss your counsel.
I don't remember a time without John. He was always there. I can remember the excitement at Christmas time in Darwin, the trips to the TAA freight terminal to collect magical presents from Johnny. I think Mum enjoyed them as much as us. There were parcels in the post and they always came with glitter and you had to be very careful opening them. When we travelled to the towers for family gatherings at Melville Street, the family always enjoyed time in each other's company and the joy of being together, sitting around the kitchen table swapping stories and planning adventures. When my daughter was chosen to play Cinderella in the school play, she rang John and they had many planning sessions over the phone, and soon enough, in the post came another amazing dress, creating for her more magical memories and everyone who saw it. When I was diagnosed with cancer, it was John I rang first, and it was him who volunteered to tell everyone else. He has always been supportive, no matter how far away you lived. A few hours spent in his presence was enough to make you fall in love with him. He was timeless, and yet he was old in his thoughts and wisdom. He loved life and people with a passion and could communicate and connect with all ages. Uncle Johnny, as he was known to his nephews and nieces and many of their friends in turn, was always happy. He did not literally sail through life. He had his trials. Remember the motorbike injury that ended his stage dancing career? But he overcame them and helped many others. I don't think I can recall a time when Johnny was negative or despondent. He seemed always to be happy and able to induce a similar mood in all he came across. And of course, the John Watson touch appeared everywhere. Family weddings, family misfortunes, counselling and general support. He wouldn't want our tears, he'd want us to remember him, and remember him, we always will. And in the words of my children, great Uncle Johnny.
John knew who he was. With pride, confidence and foresight, he strived to make his own way in life and to follow his own unique path. He tried to impart these qualities in everyone he met, to be true to yourself, work hard and shoot for the stars. While his passing is a loss to all of us, it's heartening to know that he was looking for purpose, direction and excitement to the new adventure. It was also a great shame that the people of Bundaberg did not get to know the wisdom, wonder, sparkle and life that is our Uncle Johnny. He will always live on in our hearts.
much for sharing those stories with us of Johnny. I feel as though I've got a few of those stories. One of the things that always stands out in my mind is John's truck, the white truck. Whenever you saw the white truck, you knew that John was around. It was a bit like Brian's red truck. We knew the white truck and the red truck. So that was just fantastic. Thank you so much. Now we'd like to invite Terry Brady, a dear friend of Johnny's, up to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I will remember the white truck and the wild boys. And just quickly, Donald, remember the theatre search for primates? I think Johnny's found it. I'd like to be doing primates today, but instead of that, a little bit of Shakespeare. Fear no more the heat of the sun, nor the furious winter's rages. Thou thy worldly task hast done, home art gone and take thy wages. Golden girls and lads all must, as chimney sweepers, come to dust. Fear no more the frown of the great, thou art past the tyrant's stroke. Care no more to clothe and eat, to thee the reed is as the oak. The sceptre, learning, physic must all follow this and come to dust. Fear no more the lightning flash, nor the all-dread thunderstone. Fear not slander, censure rash. Thou hast finished joy and moan. All lovers young, all lovers must consign to thee and come to dust. No exorciser harm thee, nor no witchcraft charm thee. Ghost unlaid forbear thee, nothing ill come near thee. Quiet consummation have, and renowned be thy grave.
We all know Johnny was very passionate about the theatre and about the performing arts and the entertainment industry in general. And I can think of I can think of lots of people in this audience today that are just as passionate as John was. But I'd now like to ask three people who share that same passion to give an insight into John's passion for the theatre. Brian Nason, Karen Crone and John Coxis.
Numberless are the world's wonders, but none more wonderful than man. I don't remember ever read which man it was to whom Sophocles was referring in his Antigone, but since Sophocles was so completely immersed in every aspect of life theatre, my guess is it was our Johnny. My sister Robbie and I, together with a train carriage full of our talented friends on tour, first met Johnny Watson in 1967 in North Queensland. Robbie, in front of house, had noticed that a lad in his school uniform had been in the audience 3 nights in a row in Townsville. And then on our day off, the next day, on our pleasure boat on the way to Magnetic Island, there this boy was again. In theatre, I think that's called research. Johnny with his shining eyes. He's been with us all, on and off ever since. He was only 61 when last he closed those bright eyes, a mere child. And as for the problems that all of us who are over the age of 61 are troubled by, what terrors does old age and decrepitude hold? Well, Johnny promised he'd never grow old. He solved that one. And like the flamboyant Cyrano de Bergerac, in his dying words, Johnny can, at this very moment that brings us all here together for him, Johnny too can say, I still have my panache. During this last week, one of Johnny's many precious female friends, my sister Robbie's granddaughter, Tilly Billinghurst, she remarked with the beautiful clarity of an 8-year-old human, so, Johnny's gone with the angels. I suppose that now he's the angel for fun. We, who are still here struggling, will spend the rest of our brief lives indebted to our Johnny, to his vitality, his eyes, and his grin.
Thank you, Brian. This is actually a reference for Johnny from the 8th of December 1972. Dear Sir, this is from the Townsville Teachers College, by the way, sorry. Dear Sir, I have been academically and personally associated with John Watson for 2 years and am in a position to comment upon his ability and character. John is a keenly intelligent young man. In the past, youthful indiscretion has led him to underachieve. Consequently, he has not been as academically successful as he should have been. Nevertheless, he has completed a number of university subjects and was successful in the majority of the teacher training program undertaken while here with us in the first semester, 1971. He displayed, on the other hand, commendable skill and confidence in the practical teaching side of his course. John has an enviable quality of spontaneity and an enthusiasm which are remarkably suited to teaching. I can advise that the secondary students here handled as a trainee teacher were delighted with his fresh and energetic approach. In the theatre too, John has proved a great asset to Townsville and to me personally at the Teachers College. He has been an untiring and cheerful worker at all times and surmounts technical and artistic obstacles with alacrity. He could splendidly assist in the school's extracurricular program. I would sincerely and unreservedly recommend him for a position in your school. He intends to return to his formal academic study in the near future. The responsibility and security of a teaching position will speed his maturation, and I have no doubt that he will be most successful. And I am sure your staff and students would be impressed by his quite charismatic appeal. Yours faithfully, Miss Angela O'Brien, lecturer in drama.
Johnny Watson, a remarkable man. To me, he was someone who always saw a glass half full. He was incorrigible and romantic. He could always see the light at the end of the tunnel and the next tunnel. And for him, there was no distinction in whatever art form he chose to put his energy in. His amazing diversity and talent can be understood if you just have a quick look around the room to see the breadth and diversity of the talent in this room. For me, my first memory of Johnny was either in 1970 or 71, and at that stage I was a little boy in khaki clothes in Edith Street, Innisfail, standing beside Peter Grumley, and the location was the Bamboo Cafe. And just outside there was this person that Peter knew that he was introducing me to, a friend of Robert Arthur's. This man had a very tight white t-shirt on with the sleeves cut out. The shortest pair of denim cut-off shorts I've ever seen, or saw then or have ever seen. long, slender legs, very shapely, and a pair of clogs. It was the clogs that blew me away. And we had to walk up the street with him to Archidiacono House, where he was staying, to meet the rest of us. Whether it was at Rogers Street in Spring Hill, whether it was Auchenflower Terrace, whether it was at Fortitude Street in Auchenflower, in Cannigo Street in Spring Hill, or in any of his other abodes, in my 20s and 30s, John was a wonderful person to visit because he was always optimistic. And as you know, if you're in your when you're in your 20s and you're committed to working in the industry that we chose to be, it can be a hard road ahead. But if you know not to visit an actor early in the morning, and if you visit them in the evening, you're always welcome. And whenever you went to Johnny's, you're always welcome with a cup of tea and a biscuit and a smile. And on numerous occasions, he displayed his immense ability to cross every boundary of whatever art form he chose to work in. There was one particular occasion, there are many, but on one particular occasion, I remember going to Fortitude Street, and he was working here for the Queensland Theatre Company, aspiring to be the next Alan Edwards. But at the same time, he and Kath Borrell were cutting out on the veranda sets for the local theatre restaurant and sewing costumes in their spare time, and at the same time making sequins on some kind of coat for a party. And that to me was probably how I was introduced and excited by the opportunity to stay focused on a career and a lifestyle in working in the arts. Johnny, as you've heard before, always had the ability to keep you inspired. It was later, in 1988, when he became the River Stage producer, where he really did show his commitment to the performing arts and to the broad sense of, regardless of whether you worked in the professional sphere or whether you worked in the community sphere, he was able to bring them together. And two people here, like many of you, Ralph Tyrrell and David Bell somewhere, will remember the only thing that ever got two performances on the River Stage, and that was Johnny's big drive in '88, was something that Ralph wrote and David directed, Synth, the Electric Muse, which featured 6 high schools from around Queensland. Johnny was able to blend what we might have called high art with that which was community art, because he was passionate about his belief that the arts matter and the arts make a difference. One of the great stories that I remember about Johnny was arriving at Cannigo Street at about 10:30 one evening. And as you know, he built the place so that he could rent upstairs and he could live downstairs, and had the biggest smile on his face. And I was telling this to Robbie yesterday, and she said, "Don't cut it out, I was going to leave it out." And he had such a big smile that I was thinking he's just had a great hand of sex or something. But in actual fact, I said to John, "What have you done?" And he said, "I've just paid all my bills." And I think that's one of the stories I'm always going to carry with me. Because if Johnny had chosen another path, if he'd been a soldier, then by now he'd be wearing many medals. If he'd chosen to be a business leader, he'd have many other things to show for all his strong and effort that went into the things that he believed in. He'd have material things. But in actual fact, he chose a path where he honestly believed, like we believe, that good people make the world a better place. And in my mind, Johnny is one of those remarkable people that we can call a cultural warrior. I think he's an outstanding person. And finally, I think what I'd like to say is that Brian lamented that he died at 61, but how fantastic for him. It's us that are sad. What I take with me is that Johnny always looked forward. He could always see the light at the end of the tunnel, and as I said before, he could see the other tunnel. So he passed away in his sleep, knowing that there was a job ahead. Well done, John.
No, don't tell that story.
Don't tell that story.
No,
You sure?
I'm positive.
Okay.
I've seen the look of the family.
Right, okay.
It's now time for Maestro Robert Keane over at the piano. Please give him a... And for Karen and I to share... You're on that mic, yes, correct, yes, the short one. To share with you a little ditty that was created for John's 60th. And it was a great party, that 60th. I wasn't there, but I heard it was great. And it was based on an old Civil War song, I think, and the lyrics were adapted by John O'Toole, and they've been slightly updated for this particular tribute to John. Now there is a line at the end of each verse where we do want you to join in, please. This is the audience participation part that I mentioned, and
put your glasses on.
Put your glasses on as well. The line is
I
the
don't
same.
need them.
Your mother might disagree, but yeah. So, yes, we'd like you to join in with us. So this is a song that basically encapsulates John's whole career, from Charters Towers to the Big Smoke and everywhere else. Maestro, if you please. When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah, we'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. The men will cheer and the boys will shout. The ladies, they will all turn out. And we'll all feel... Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Oh well, we'll just keep going. Yeah. And we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Oh, then, yes. Our boy was raised in Charters Towers
with great hurrahs
and educated after hours
in cars and bars.
His early youth was well spent. He left the Towers no innocent, and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. That's pretty good. Not too bad, yeah. Back row's a bit shaky, but
third verse.
They are in the dark. With the third verse.
Third verse.
Yeah, right. Can you tell me how to rehearse this? While still a teen,
a drama queen I'll be,
said he, but neither was denied, and so
'twas not to be.
But he never cried, he swallowed his pride, and went off to Brian and Robbie's side. And we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Sing it. Oh, key change. Oh. I love a key change. Craig McGovern, you singing? Good boy. He's still a boy soprano, you know.
Really?
Yeah. He oft went down to Sydney town, to pursue his ends with many friends.
In Melbourne too.
It was bums and chums and tons of fun, and almost everyone knew you. And we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Oh, lovely.
Oh, go right this way. Love the chains too.
We'd love the box step. Box step never dies. You got a quick box step?
Oh, I boxed them.
One more.
Wait.
Thank you very much. Choreography, yes.
Oh, wait.
When things were bad, the likely ad for work he spied.
He thought he read Sexpo 88, so he applied.
Well, there wasn't much sex, but nevertheless, he made Expo into a great success. Sorry, Salou, sorry, Barbara, sorry, everybody else. I mean, I know it wasn't all Johnny,
It
but
wasn't all well.
it's about Johnny today.
Yeah.
And we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Oh, another key change! Oh, God, I feel like Barry Manilow.
You look a bit like it.
I look like two Barry Manilow. This theatre tragic with possum magic found his place.
He even found a cause to wear a smiley face.
Divine Tarzan was quite a breeze.
But the primates never came down from the trees.
And we'll all feel gay when
Johnny comes marching home.
Who's the leader of the band is made for you and me? Okay, all right, here we go. He starred in Disney on Parade
And Cinderella
and anything in sequence.
by that Sondheim filler.
For side by side the crowds were packed, but every night on a Kleiner Nuts. That should be nut.
Nuts.
John O'Toole should be nut.
Nacht.
It's not eine kleine Nacht.
Not good accents, nuts.
Well, I guess Nacht rhymes with pat.
Oh, Nacht.
Yeah, all right.
Sorry about that, Nathan.
And we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home.
No, it's the last verse.
I may not sleep tonight. Or keep chatting. Oh, God. Eternal youth might be in truth his master plan.
Our evergreen boy that gave us joy.
Our Peter Pan. With his darlings dear, who look so queer, and we're all proud that we knew you. And we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Here we go.
All do the last one
Finished.
together?
Standing up.
Yeah, everyone can stand. Well, those of you that can.
Yes. Here we go.
Last one.
Last verse.
When Johnny comes marching home again.
When Johnny comes marching home again. Hurrah! Hurrah! We'll give him a hearty welcome then. Hurrah! Hurrah! The men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies they will all turn out. We will all feel gay when Johnny comes marching. One more time. And we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes. Take me home. And we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home.
Well done, everyone. Good work.
Well done.
It's like we rehearsed that. It's good. You were great
And
over
now-
here. Oh, Julie, over there.
And now it's time to reflect on some visual memories of John. We've put together a great collection of photos that some people out here have also sent in to Robbie and John and Michael. So, Maestro?
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. If your heart is in your dream, no way crest is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, as dreamers do, fate is kind, she brings to those who love the sweet fulfillment of their secret longings. Like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. It is kind, she brings to those who love the sweet fulfillment of their secret longing. Like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true.
And now we'd like Barbara to come up, please, and talk on behalf of John. One of John's friends was saying just over the last week that despite his attempts over the years, that great phone message and phone answering voice of his to say, John Watson speaking, he never could quite change us all from Johnny. I'd like to thank all of those people who sent me notes about their memories of John. As you'd imagine, only a small portion of them can be told in the time that we've got here today, but they've really helped me in filling out the details of the life of John William Watson, born 2nd of April 1951 in Charters Towers. From what I've been told, if you knew little Johnny Watson in the early 1960s, you probably would have considered him either a very naughty boy or a young man who was confident in who he was and certain of what he wanted. But whichever way you saw him,
you'd have had to concede he was unique. By definition, unique means just one, and I've often found myself wondering if there really could have been only one John Watson, because he seemed to be everywhere all the time, catching up with and helping out friends and family, and keeping in touch with people in a way that most of us could never dream possible. He's been likened by so many people to Peter Pan, the boy who could fly, and Johnny did seem to fly between places, the boy who always came to the rescue. And how many of us have been rescued in one way or another by Johnny over the years? And Peter Pan, of course, was the mischievous boy who never quite grew up. I think Johnny rather liked that image of himself. As a photograph that you saw up there, his friends say he was determined to have his photo taken beside the statue of Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens when he visited London a couple of years ago. John was so many things to so many people. A tower of strength to his family, a staunchly loyal friend, a hugely creative and generous man in his professional life, always willing to listen to other people's ideas and always mentoring and encouraging younger people in the industry. Passionate is the word to describe him. He was passionate about everything. John was a true friend and a helper. He was always there in times of need. Not that you'd ever need to ask him to help. He'd just somehow know that something needed to be done, and there he would be to help you do it. Just in the couple of weeks before he died, in the midst of packing up and getting ready for the move to his new job and new adventure in Bundaberg, he was helping one friend move house and another with home renovations. He was as adept with a sewing machine as he was with a cordless drill, skills he developed from an early age in the not-so-glamorous end of showbiz. He pretty much began his life in theatre, as the Nasons were describing, in Townsville, aged around the age of 15. He turned up to help make costumes for a production of Cinderella, sleeping on the window seat in the costume room at night. He was as tireless in his personal life as he was in the workplace, but he also found time for a relaxed companionship with his many mates. He loved catching up for a coffee or a meal, an evening at the theatre or opera, discussing and debating politics or almost any subject, which he did with enormous intellectual rigour, and for a few years loved getting away with his mates Chris and Kevin on their yacht for days on end. He had so many friends, yet every one of us felt we were special to him. Maybe that's because he was so special to us. He didn't just have a network of friends, he had a web of friends. You felt you knew those you'd never met because you knew so much about them. That was one of Johnny's most endearing qualities. If you were lucky enough to have him as a friend, you had a friend for life. Johnny was a man of the theatre and a talented all-rounder, a dancer in his early days, a writer, producer, director, actor, costume maker, and much, much more. He played almost all those roles for a number of shows during his long and varied career, including his production of Smiley the Musical at the Redcliffe Entertainment Centre. He was such a perfectionist that colleagues recall him laying turf outside the centre the night before the opening in preparation for the arrival of the VIPs. He was on fire when he worked on his productions, so much so that one of his colleagues claims that those around him got scorched by the heat. John's advice to younger people he guided in the business was this: it's called show business for a reason. You can be good at the show, but you've got to get good at the business too. Those who worked with him know that he didn't wait for grants, he made things happen. Years ago, he produced and directed Cinderella in Innisfail and financed the production by working in the sugar mill during the milling season. A few years later, he put everything he had, energy, time and money, into what became his obsession, producing his musical Primates, which, despite his efforts and those of a number of his friends and supporters, never got onto the stage. Johnny was also a great collaborator. He worked often with Gary Ginnivan, who he met in Melbourne in 1976. John and Gary embarked on many endeavours, and in 1990 reached a milestone that lives on today, Possum Magic, the musical. They adapted the script and lyrics, and John's close friend and collaborator, David Cocker, did the score and arrangements. The three had no idea that Possum Magic would still be around 25 years later, with the most recent tour in 2012 playing to more than 80,000 patrons in 40 venues across Australia. Johnny worked on everything, from stage shows to theatre restaurants to Disney on Parade. Then came his chance to work with a real budget at Expo 88. And that's where I met him, in 1985. A moment I recall vividly, because he was simply the most handsome man I'd ever seen. John accepted the dual role of producer of River Stage and producer of National Corporate Days for World Expo 88. He programmed Expo's major stage for a full 6 months, engaging performers and companies from around the world and presenting his own productions, an experience that he likened to surviving 184 opening nights. A couple of days ago, I reread John's description of his Expo experience. He said, "It was a time where many of the ideals and wonderful possibilities of our world were sometimes realised. And it was a time when he was able to realise many of his ideals too." He was a true idealist. He wanted to make things better, not just for himself, but for everyone. He wanted to make the world a better place, and he succeeded. His was what you would call a life well spent. Our lovely, idealistic Johnny was a man of high ambition, strength and integrity, one of the finest we'll ever meet. Gorgeous, warm, enthusiastic, charming, generous to a fault, and with a wicked sense of humour matched only by his wicked past. He was the most self-deprecating of people, always willing to give people a laugh at his own expense. And John possessed another quality that I haven't mentioned yet. He was the most outrageous person that most of us have ever met. He opened lots of our eyes to a new way of looking at the world, a broader world than most of us ever knew existed. He was certainly the only bloke any of us knew who kept a pair of red sequined stilettos under his desk. A rather prim young colleague who worked with him on a project remarked that he was the first man she'd ever seen ironing frocks, wearing only a G-string. I once overheard him asking his assistant if she'd change her will and leave her husband to him if she suffered an untimely death. And I suspect he asked that question of others too. He was always offering to look after husbands while their wives were away. But I think the story that exemplifies what only Johnny could get away with is this. During one of our many meetings at Expo, he turned to our relatively new, very young and naive contracts manager and asked, "If you woke up in the morning with a condom up your bum and grass stains on your hands and knees, would you tell anyone?" When he recovered from the question, the young man answered in a meek voice, "No." To which John promptly replied, "Great, let's go on a picnic." He was confident in who he was and certain of what he wanted to the end. One of John's friends has pointed out he died in the way he lived, excited, no doubt brimming with ideas, full of expectation for his new adventure, and hopeful that his long-held ambition to put primates on stage might finally be realised. Well, what a way to go. As you may know, John has chosen to be buried in an unmarked grave, so most of us will never know exactly where he lies. But I suspect that more than ever, he'll be like Peter Pan. He'll still seem to be everywhere, not far from any of us, all the time.
Thank you so much, Barbara. And now I call on our last person who's going to read a lovely reading for you, Victoria Arthur.
Think Johnny sang it. Looking up at the stars, I know quite well that for all they care I can go to hell. But on earth, Indifference is the least we have to dread from man or beast. How should we like it, were stars to burn with a passion for us we could not return? If equal affection cannot be, let the more loving one be me. Admirer as I think I am of stars that do not give a damn, I cannot, now I see them, say I missed one terribly all day. Were all stars to disappear and die, I should learn to look at an empty sky and find its total dark sublime. Though this might take me a little time.
So there are two very special, well, three very special things to happen. Three to happen this afternoon. One is a fitting toast and standing ovation to John's memory, and to play us out, or to sing us out, a song from one of John's favourite movies. As you know, Barbara alluded to the sequence stilettos under the desk, and you saw some photos up there with featuring red shoes of various descriptions. So we don't have any alcohol in here to toast, but we would like to invite you outside afterwards to partake in some refreshments and have your own personal toast to Johnny. But now I think we could simply stand and toast Johnny here. So ladies and gentlemen, to Johnny. You can clap if you like. Everybody sing! We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Is a wizard a whiz, if ever a whiz there was. If ever a whiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. One more time, here we go. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. He's a wizard of whiz, if ever a whiz there was. If ever a whiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Farewell, Johnny. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go, Karen and I both serve on the Benevolent Fund for the Actors and Entertainers Benevolent Fund of Queensland, and John joined us 2 years ago on that committee, and he brought such a wonderful, fresh, vibrant energy to the committee, and it was just wonderful to have him as part of that committee. And in lieu of flowers today, we'd like you, on behalf of John, to make a donation to the Actors Benevolent Fund. There's a bucket out in the foyer if you feel like you'd like to give something. Then we encourage you to do so, but it's totally up to you. But we'd like to thank QTC for allowing us to use the Willie Brown studio today, particularly the cast of Gloria for allowing us to use their set.
Yes, thanks QTC.
Yes,
thank you everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Yanni.
And to all the staff here, they've done a fantastic job. So ladies and gentlemen, the only thing to do is to follow the yellow brick road out to the foyer and partake in some refreshments. Thank you.
Let's celebrate Johnny. Thank you.
Here's to us. Who's like us? Damn few. Hey, old friend, are you okay? Old friend, what do you say? Old friend. friend are we, or are we unique? Time goes by, everything else keeps changing. You and I, we get continued next week. Most friends fade, or they don't make the grade. New ones are quickly made, and in a pinch, sure they'll do. But us, old friend, what's to discuss? Old friend, here's to us. Who's like us? Damn few. So, old friend, fill me in slow. Old friend, start from hello. Old friend, I want the when, where, and how. Old friends do tend to become old habit. Never knew how much I missed you till now. Most friends fade, or they don't make the grade. New ones are quickly made. Some of them were something too. But us old friends wants to discuss old friends. I'll tell you something. Good friends point out your lies, whereas old friends live and let live. Good friends like and advise, whereas old friends love and forgive. And old friends let you go your own way, help you find your own way. Let you off when you're wrong, if you're wrong, when you're wrong. Right or wrong, the point is old friends shouldn't care if you're wrong. Should, but not for too long. What's too long? If you're wrong, when you're wrong. The thing is, old friends do leave their brands on you, but old friends shouldn't compete. Old friends don't make demands on you. Should make demands on you. Well, don't make demands you can't meet. Well, what's the point of a demand you